If any of you guys have been wondering the past month where Joe Biden has been exactly, he literally has not really done anything of substance since he dropped out of the race. Apparently, he's done a pre-recorded interview with a friendly source that has basically shocked the race a little bit, and I'll explain why. As you can see here, the title of the article goes, "Things got moving so quickly, Biden explains why he didn't pass the torch sooner." So you can see how there is a sense of chaos, and to kind of mute the guy and send him off to Delaware for 3 days might have been the solution by now, but seemingly it seems like, of course, if you're dropping out the race, why aren't you going out and rallying for Kamala or anything of the sort? This is all on the back of, obviously, since my last few videos, the polling has not changed at all. Harris is still leading by 0.5 in the popular vote, which is a seemingly Trump W in the Electoral College. And that being said, like I was pointing out earlier, they haven't updated the polls. In fact, Rasmussen, which is a Republican-leaning pollster that has Trump winning by 5, had a poll 5 days ago. But when we go into the more mainstream polls like CNBC and Morning Consult, they haven't released a poll in 8 days since August 4th. It's so weird. It's the 12th today. What the hell is going on? Okay, so we have a campaign that insists that they're winning by a ton, Harris and Walz, but they're not. The polls showing them winning are not updated, even though we're in the thick of the race, like as intense as it could possibly get. We have a debate schedule where Trump wants 3 debates. Harris is only promising 1. And you might think, okay, well, what about Joe? Like, didn't he want to be your surrogate? And, when you pass the torch, it ought to be on good standing, but it seems like they kind of like put him into the nursing home preemptively. Now, the White House might be a nice place to retire in, but the point is like, dude, what the hell's going on? We have an interview by President Biden that will show you what the hell's going on here.
If I stayed in the race, that would be the topic. You'd be interviewing me about why did Nancy Pelosi say, why did so, and I thought it'd be a real distraction.
So basically, he's saying the excuse for why he dropped out the race was that Nancy Pelosi and other Democrats came up to him and said, "Joe, it's not that you're going to lose the presidency, but you're going to negatively affect House members down ballot and senators down ballot." Now, how the hell does that make sense? How would a presidential candidate drop down other Democrats down ballot if not for the fact that he's losing to Donald Trump? So he has it in his head, or at least he's lying to people in as discombobulated way as you can possibly do so. But he is old. So basically the point is like he's saying, well, I wasn't losing, but everybody else was tangentially losing, but it has nothing to do with me. It's like if you said, okay, look, the coach took me as a quarterback out the game, not because I wasn't throwing the ball to the receivers and I was throwing interceptions. It just so happens that they were doing worse when I was on the field. And it's like, well, you're the quarterback, you're the leader. What the hell is going on? So either he's lying, in which case it's a bad one because we can all see what it is, or he's that out of it that he got gaslit by a alcoholic like Pelosi. You might think to yourself, well, what the hell's going on? So let's keep playing it. So as you can see here, Joe Biden is somebody who literally had 14 million votes in the primary and yet got basically cudgeled and coerced into dropping out of the race. This is an odd prospect because, as I was saying, he excuses his debate performance in this interview in and of itself, which I'll save you time because it is 12 minutes. God knows for me, that'd be like half an hour just talking over it. He says in this that his debate performance that you see right here was caused due to for having a cold, for being sick. Obviously, you could blame and you can cop a plea and say, well, the charges of having a hoarse voice and coughing a lot, maybe, yeah, you did have a cold. But when it comes to literally forgetting what your train of thought is, yeah, maybe you were sick, but sick with dementia. Okay, so this is a different thing entirely. Okay, now, Pelosi has been kind of like sidestepping the whole prospect. She's over here talking about like, oh, Joe, he will make a right decision after Joe like 3 different times said I will be running for president. So she clearly wanted him out, but she's been recalcitrant since then and has been wishy-washy, which does not show confidence. That being said, the race is changing because, as we know, everybody's saying, oh my God, Harris is going to win. And while that could totally happen, it is completely true also that why isn't there polls? Again, most polls are liberal. We'll even go through the line item. Okay. The majority of these, I would say like literally all but like one of these are liberally slanted. Okay. CNBC, Survey USA, ActiVote, The Economist, YouGov, Ipsos, these are all liberal institutions. Okay. So for these pollsters to be liberal and not putting out polls means more likely than not that despite having more funding than Republicans overall, they're not putting out polls because Harris is dropping in the polls. And so they're saying, well, we're just going to coast off these good numbers and just hope nobody asks, but the people that are watching this now want to see, okay, what are the latest polls? And as I'm telling you right now, they literally have not updated this. Again, CNBC, most recent poll 8 days ago, 8 days. What the fuck? Like, what do you want me to do? Okay. This is insane. In 2020, they had polls coming out every 30 or so hours. What the hell is this? It's been an entire week and change, So right now we're facing a president who is a lame duck by all means. And we're not talking lame ducks in the classical sense where, the other party wins an election. You've got a couple months to kind of like sit down and maybe have a cigar or two and say, I'm still president. But this guy is the opposite. He is spending the presidency, not even in the White House, but like you're seeing right now, he is coming back from Delaware, like every week, basically spending half the week there, which is saying that he's not really being active. And so what the problem is there is that we have a Joe Biden who oftentimes is going to be obviously seething and resentful that they basically just stole the nomination from him, even though he theoretically deserved it. Now, obviously, it wouldn't have been the right thing as the guy's completely out of it. I mean, he's even struggling to walk here. And what I mean is that he's looking at his steps to not like trip over himself, which is something you might do when you're like 18 months old. Now he's like a Benjamin Button regressing. The point being, though, is that he's a lame duck on steroids. And the problem with it is that he's not going to get anything legislatively done. And even if he does, and Harris takes credit for it, then she ought to take credit for this border crisis, this inflation crisis, and anything you can even name that has happened in the past 4 years. It's an incredible thing to notice because not only is the guy not going to help her, and even if he does, it brings in the implication of like, okay, well then if Harris, you're taking credit for this thing that Joe did, then aren't you taking credit for everything else? And look how cozy they are kind of walking back the whole border czar thing. I mean, you've got clips of these people dead to rights saying like, oh yeah, this is border czar Kamala, but then all of a sudden they're just going to pretend like it never happened. It's a disgusting thing. But the point is that, obviously Joe is a bad incumbent president. He's going to hurt Harris in this election cycle. Now, will any single voter change their mind after watching this interview about how Harris and Pelosi and others basically coerced Joe to drop out or else not have funding or else not to get condemned by George Clooney and people that look like me? Okay, look, the point is that we clearly have somebody who is in a super awkward position in Harris and Joe, by the way, just that Harris might be more cognizant at this point. And the truth being that in this election, I personally think that basically she's not going to get any boost that you otherwise would have. Like if Joe had like a big policy proposal that would have been great, that would help Harris. But because the track record thus far has been so trash and she's trying to distance herself from it, she can't really implicate herself too hard in that world. And so it's a difficult process to deal with. Now, so right now we're dealing with a super odd scenario where we have a presidential candidate in Harris who's sort of an incumbent, and you have Trump who quite literally is an incumbent, like one term removed. And so it's a very odd dynamic. But let's get into the actual prediction here. So recently in the past 24 hours, again, the polls have not updated at all, which is super odd. The betting odds have changed to be more pro-Harris. But that being said, again, how much can you lend credence to that? I mean, these people literally had like 20% odds of Newsom being the nominee. And how did that work out? Granted, I thought he was a dark horse too. That being said, so this whole Biden revelation I just talked about today isn't really going to change anybody's mind, like I said before. But I do think it kind of adds fodder to this whole notion of a fake nominee, Manchurian candidate, sort of, okay, Harris, you are astroturfed. Nobody liked you in the 2020 primary, aside from the time when you were squatting and taking a dump on Joe's credibility and racist bona fides. Okay, so the point being is that this will further cement support for Donald Trump against Harris as being a faker. Independents that are also kind of like philosophically very mid and very milquetoast, but also spend a lot of time in the news cycle, will understand how this is a bad look for Harris. And so this might hurt her slightly. Again, this is a very tepid difference in the race, but I already had Trump winning 312 electoral votes as it is. So this would be the prediction still. Ooh, Oregon, red Oregon. That's an inside joke. Okay, whoops. All right, so again, it's Harris Walls 226, Trump Vance 312. This is subject to change, of course, because this election, while polarized and things are very dead even, the polls are not here, and I cannot even complain about it enough. I mean, if I had blonde hair, I'd be up with HR just complaining at the election cycle, like, yo, what the hell, man? 8 days without a poll. You guys have no idea how rare this is, okay? This is like going a week without your girlfriend texting you back. You're like, what the, are you dead or something? Like, again, it's not a legal obligation for there to be polls, but I mean, a whole week and change and no polls, bro. I'm down bad. I'm down bad. And even the polls that are recent, that are kind of like out there, like Qantas and Redfield. I mean, Qantas I've never heard of. They still have Harris winning by less than what Biden did in 2020, which leads to Trump winning in the Electoral College, by the way, by this amount actually. And so, according to the latest polls, technically, while Harris would win the popular vote, Trump would win these states. Maybe he'd lose Michigan, but I doubt it. Anyway, if you like the video, then go ahead and press that like button, click it, love it, fondle it, and subscribe if you haven't yet, because I need all your support for my ego. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Adios.